Wonderful. So, welcome once again, and thank you to all those who are sharing their welcoming messages in the chat here. And yeah, if you're just arriving in, really feel welcome to say hello, and I'm sure you'll receive a lot of warm welcomes back. So it's the last session of the week, and in a way, there's always a lot more that we can open to and explore into. And as you'll know, this week really about liberating views. Just a little reminder as we step into this is both that sense of clearing away the views, but also applying different views in ways that support a sense of freedom, sense of well-being. So I won't say a lot more about how the sessions work. Hopefully you've been to earlier ones in the week, but even if you've missed them, you'll be able to pick up and explore at least what you can. Certainly those who followed the other sessions of this will probably be able to connect it all together in a more comprehensive way. But one of the principles of these teachings is that they really apply to this moment right here with what you have, and we can start moving our life, the direction of our life, towards freedom. And that's something that's really beautiful about them. Yeah. And they can build on your past practice and deepen it and take it further and keep it moving. That's all part of what it means to be a human entity that is has dependencies on things and can understand those dependencies and can understand different ways of working. And that's at the core of what we're doing whenever we practice, but particularly through this week. So my name's Nathan. I'm guiding the sessions this week, and I'm going to shortly share a little reflection there about this kind of practice. We'll move into half an hour of meditation where I'll just drop in little kind of pockets of information. Mostly the period will be in silence. Hopefully that will be a good balance for people's practice here. And then we'll have time for any kind of questions, reflections, and all of that. Of course, today I'll probably say a little bit more about the Dharna principle, how Sangha Live is supported by our contributions, and really wants to be operating that way for the maximum amount of inclusivity. So if you're not in a position to be able to support, you're really, really welcome to be here. And this is, one of the great reasons for offering it in this way. Make it as accessible as possible for as many people as possible. If that includes you, then that's a really good thing for us, and we wish you well with being here. Okay, so I'll say more about the questions, reflections part when we get there. I also have a number of events and tips and tricks and ways we can keep this practice going, and I'll share those at the end as well, and we'll put them as links for the replay video. So yeah, hopefully we're kind of on board with the idea that we can change our view and look at things in different ways, whether that's to look at things as dynamic, to look at things as non-lasting, to look at things as unable to bring lasting happiness because of that quality. If we can look at it as actually it doesn't contain happiness, it doesn't contain anything to make us enough, that's actually something we release on the other hand, on the other side of that spectrum. And the last view that we want to open into is a really interesting one, and one that can be picked up very much in the wrong way. And that is the view of not self. The Buddhist view that things are not themselves. And then we can turn that into a view, and the teachings are there to be practiced, and people have turned those into practices, and I'd like to share one of those with you today. But first, let's just talk a bit about views. It's a really helpful way of holding the whole of the week's teachings, and in a way, the whole of the Buddha's teachings can be just seen as their views. There's actually a part of the teachings called right view. And if you dive into what right view means in the teachings, it actually means having the right view about views as well. Yeah, sounds like a tangle. Any view is just a view. It's something we've taken up. And our experience is not found without a view. There has to be a view here for us to be experiencing. Yeah, which is a profound thing to say. It's a really key point of the whole time that we're here together. Yeah, our experience is not found without a view. We are taking up a view for us to be able to see anything. For there to be a perception, there has to be a conception. There has to be an underlying idea. For me to perceive this cup, this chair, this screen, I have to have a concept of that thing in my mind. Yeah. So the concept, the perception, and the knowing of that, they all need each other. And what that means is then, if we change that idea, if we change our view, we change our perception, we change our experience. It can seem like a whole tangle of words to get to the point of like, it makes a difference. The view matters. The view matters, really matters, and really matters on a very fundamental level. Like we don't remember picking up the concepts, yeah, but they're there. They're working through our subconscious into our conscious, making our conscious experience of life. Okay, so the way that we see things depends on that way of looking at them. And it also depends on that way of relating to them. Okay, so our experience changes dependent on our view. But the interesting thing is our feeling of ourselves as the experiencer of our life, yeah, which could be called our sense of self. That self view depends on the activity of that self, including its conceptions, perceptions, knowings. Yeah? And when those change, who we feel ourselves to be changes. And here's a funny thing, in a way, funny, like, yeah, I suppose that has to be true. Our sense of ourself as the perceiver is another perception. We have a perception of ourselves occurring to ourselves. Yeah, and we'll see this a lot in these teachings. They have this kind of fractal element, those patterns that you look into, and it's like, oh, it's a whole nother pattern inside the pattern. And our sense of self occurs to ourself as a perception that is known. One of the qualities of knowing anything at all is actually knowing that we know it. Now, I know that I'm here in this experience. Most of the time I forget that. But we can have a sense of ourselves. We can have a sense of knowing. Where's that knowing occurring? It's knowing occurring in knowing. Again, you have these fractal patterns. This is one of the beauties of these teachings, is that they continue to work in ways is how could we release there? Could we open there? Yeah. Okay. So kind of a whole avenue opens out. We're not going down there today. Yeah, we're not going down there at this moment, but it's there. And the more we explore these beautiful teachings, they just open out more and more and more. So there can be this kind of question, well, then, if we change according to our activity, what activity shall we do so that we feel more liberated? And one of those can be, let's turn our attention towards ourself, towards our sense of self, not with a sense of rejection, not with a sense of actually taking a position. Yeah. Oftentimes through this, I've been repeating this thing. It's not a truth claim, it's a usefulness claim. So we're actually going to take the view of not self, not because we think I don't exist. We're not trying to make some kind of philosophical or intellectual argument that way. But actually, what happens if we take this view? Is it more freeing? The Buddha never said the self exists or the self does not exist. There's no point taking a stance here. That's not the goal. But the way the Buddha would talk is pay attention to your activity. Yeah, pay attention to your activity And we could say here, because it's going to change how you feel who you are. And one of the most beautiful and possibly most kind of overlooked, kind of glossed over aspects of the teachings of the Buddha could be described as a shift from selfhood, which is what we come in feeling, I am me, what are you going to tell me I'm not, to activity. In a sense, moving from essence to activity. What are you up to? What are you doing? Who do we become in this way? It's very much like a pattern language that we can be described by causal dynamism. I did this, I acted that way. We describe each other in those ways, but then we concretize those into, well, they're that kind of a person, right? And we want to have more freedom here and more interest, more intimacy, more forgiveness, more compassion, all of that. And that's really helped by just seeing this as an activity. So when we interact with someone, we might, not say they are an angry person, say, when they acted in that way, it came through with that kind of energy, and we're much more clear, much more precise with our language, and actually I think much more helpful, and hopefully that works its way into a much more healing relationship between beings and over time with ourselves and with all living entities in this perhaps boundless expanse of a universe of life. Okay. So the Buddha sidestepped questions around, is there a self, is there not a self, by actually talking about how it dependently comes into being. And for now, again, massive avenue we can go down, enormous teaching. We can say it can be changed. And that actually makes it ultimately unfindable because it depends, but also very effective at change making. And that's what we're interested in. Yeah. So you may have come across teachers of meditation who will shorthand these teachings as saying something like, there is no self, the self is an illusion, an apparition, a figment of your imagination. To that, for now, we're just going to respond, what isn't? What isn't an illusion, an apparition, a figment of your imagination? The whole idea around perceptions dependent on conceptions means that they're the best guess that we have of what reality is. And most of the time that works fine. Yeah. So equally, we see the selfhood of me is an activity dependent on the way of looking, the way of relating, all of that. The selfhood of things, likewise. This pain in my leg, this government that we have, this thing. It depends on how I look at them. They're rich, dynamic, they have dimensions and aspects that I may not be paying attention to. And if I pay attention to them, I'll see them in different ways. The way that I relate to them, the way that I hold them in the kind of atmosphere of my attention and knowing experience really changes. If I meet them with kindness, with forgiveness, with those kind of aspirations, very different if I meet them with my anger, my disappointment, my sense of betrayal, whatever. Yeah. So what we're saying is it can be otherwise. The view matters. We're not saying it can be anything. Right? Big claim there, but it need not be like this. Or in other ways, we're saying the view matters. So rolling it back to the self, don't want to go too far into the whole of things, but the selfhood of things, the selfhood of ourself, what's the difference? Yeah, very changeable, very adaptable, take different views. So our view of ourself deeply matters, and it's another perception which we can play with, we can move around. Okay. Not out of cleverness, not even out of truth, but certainly of truthfulness and honesty. And good questions posed skillfully for freedom for all. So what is a liberating view of self? What is a freeing sense of self? So interestingly, as we adopt these different views, there's a lot less demanding, a lot less grasping. Yeah, we can have this feeling of actually taking a lot less identification or ownership over things. And those diminishing of identification and ownership are freeing. They feel freeing. And there might be a kind of cause of concern. Well, what if I didn't feel identified with my body? Would I no longer protect it? Yeah. Now, we want to be clear, this is taking up a view at certain times because it's helpful. If it doesn't feel helpful in certain situations, don't do it. Don't do it unless you're experimenting and it's like, well, it feels a bit uncomfortable, but I'm not sure it's bad, so I'm going to try it now. Yeah, it can be helpful at times to say, this is my body and I will look after it and I will care for it and all of these kind of things. But interestingly, I found for myself as a meditator, let's say, I put my body in postures, stillness postures, for the sense of wanting to spend more time in stillness. But sometimes I'm tangling that body up in ways that the body's not quite as keen about as my mind was in that moment. So we can have this question: if I imagine, or I take the stance, take the view, this body does not belong to me. It's not my body. Now, I don't need to replace that with anything else. I'm just saying it's not my body. I could change the view to it's nature's body, and I'm here as a steward to look after it. Yeah, and I want to give it back in good condition, like I've borrowed a coat from a friend. Yeah, my coat's there lying on the floor, in the stuff that's fallen off my shoe as I came into the house. Their coat is hanging on a hanger, or whatever it is, in good state, so that I can give it back in a lovely way. Identification with things doesn't always lead to the best possible behaviors. So we can say it's not synonymous saying, well, if I lose my sense of identification, I'll not care about anything. Very unlikely that those two things are causally correlated in that way. Yeah. Another area that we get very identified is our thinking. So that was about our body, our thinking. These thoughts, the Buddha uses this lovely phrase, the thoughts occurred to me. Not they're my thoughts, but the thoughts occur. They occur to us in a similar way that sounds occur to us. And we can say, shall I listen to that? Shall I follow that? Shall I seek out more about that? Or shall I just say, oh yeah, that thought arose? Yeah, and we don't need to get so identified, so in ownership with what arises. So what would it be like to not to try and control the types of thoughts, how many thoughts happen, neither rejecting them nor holding on to them? Yeah. And we can take this view, and this is the practice, and we'll begin to move into it. They're not mine. They do not define me. They're not the same as myself. Just thoughts. I didn't make them. I don't need to now take ownership of them, that they are the ones that have occurred. I don't need to make them a problem. I don't need to be identified. I don't need to take ownership. But we're interested. What if I don't? What if I see this stream of consciousness as that? It's a stream of consciousness. And it doesn't matter. Many of you might then say, well, then whose are they? Or why are they only occurring to me? We're not taking that kind of a stance. Yeah. It's a stance of usefulness, not truthfulness. It's not an argument. It's not a clever philosophical position. It's an invitation to look this way. And so this is called the not self strategy. And that word strategy here is really important. It's a strategy that we're taking on to see if it can help us be more free. And what it means is that whatever arises in body, heart, mind, consciousness through any of the sense doors, we take the view, this is not me, it's not mine. Yeah, and we can do that in our relationships as well. Maybe talk about that in the time of the questions. This is not my sister, my father, my mother, my daughter. This is not there. And that actually opens out the possibilities for them to be more than that, because they are more than that. And more than that defined role and relationship to me. And seeing them in that way can be very beautiful, very freeing. This is not my body. What is it? It's not my body. Really get to meet things. This is not a tree. Well, what is it? Yeah. And it's one of those kind of counter evolutionary moves that we make in meditation at times. To be evolved is defined and clear and whatever. And what am I going to do with that? And that actually liberates us into more of this non-demanding relationship. It's a truth. It's not a truth claim, but a liberating view. Okay, let's bring this into a bit of time for practice. Time for half an hour of relatively quiet practice, but I'm going to pop these little different views in every so often. So first of all, let's work with whatever helps you calm. It could be that view of seeing things as dynamic. Really getting there at the front of now, catching the breath coming in, sounds coming through. You might want to set the challenge of being with the next 3 breaths, or the sounds for that amount of time, in a way that's caring, interested. We might switch into a view which is let's just rest here and let the attention be very unforced, quite delicate. See where it goes. We're just watching it. Maybe it follows the breath, stays with the sounds. Then we might take another little challenge, another 3 breaths. Again, might be with the kindness, the interest. Or it might be shaping it in ways that we feel be helpful. If there's restlessness, can we calm, soothe, more of the out breath, more of the receptivity in the sound, roundedness. If there's dullness or lack of brightness, what about bringing in more interest, more brightness? Feeling the body come alive. We could take the view of us as meditators as actually ones who are cultivating. We might be cultivating the harmonization of body, heart, and mind, bringing those together into the same moment. The body in the mind in the body, the heart in the heart of that. It might be on the level of the body or the level of the mind that we notice something needed. Maybe a softening in the shoulders. Might be the degree of kindness or interest. If you like using the 3 breaths model, it can be a helpful way of thinking, let's increase that ingredient. Let's each out breath, we relax the shoulders more, for example, or the face. Alternatively, each in breath, we really want to notice the first very intimate beginnings of that breath. We notice the very beginnings, bringing more of that interest. It starts to build that quality, liberating the view, we're changing the view. Leave you to explore, to play within that realm. These thoughts are occurring. Thoughts are occurring. Didn't make them, probably didn't choose them intentionally. You don't need to make them a problem, so don't need to identify or believe. In this regard, the Buddha would have one question: is, are these leading to dukkha? Are they greedy, grasping, aversive, rejecting? Are they quite deluded thinkings, taking what's inconstant as constant, unable to bring lasting happiness as able to do that? And how identified and owning of the thoughts and the content. Another way of framing it is, how freeing are these thoughts? How aligned with generosity and gratitude and appreciation, beauty and goodness. And how liberating. And if they're not liberating, is it what we wish to be doing? If they're not delighting, lightening. So we don't reject thinking across the board. We question and release. And maybe return to soothing, opening, the liberating view of body or sounds. See the body as anatomy, the breath as lungs and oxygen. We could also see it as energy. What's a more liberating view for you? Using the breath to soothe, to soften, to open areas of tension. Use your listening capacity to open out wider and wider through the whole field of knowing awareness, to listen to the most distant sounds, or in either field, opening with a sense of kindness, welcoming. The last 10 minutes or so of the practice, I'd like to introduce this not self strategy, which is implied in any moment of practice where we defuse attention from the object, become aware of what we're aware of, and begin to liberate through different skillful lenses. Just a warning, we're going to go through the whole 6 sense doors of experience, including the intellect as a sense door, thinking, emoting, part of our experience, and just withdraw that sense of identification. So if either that feels like it'll be too wordy for you, you can mute this. If you feel it wouldn't be wholesome and healthy for you to do this, then you can step back from that and come back in about 10 minutes time. But it's not agitating on the whole for most people. So if we take a sense of this whole body, feel all of the sensitive nerve endings of the fingertips, the palms of the hand, soles of the feet, revealing this world of contact, of touch. Recognize that this isn't something we're doing, it's something that's happening, something that comes with having a body. And if this breaks, we wouldn't know how to fix it. We wouldn't know how to create another one of these. This body can feel temperature and pressure seemingly effortlessly. Something we have to look after. It's not ours. Didn't make it. And everything that it senses is also not ours. And that whole rich sensitivity flowing through it. It's not me. It's not mine. This is not myself. And just holding that as a view, not an argument, but a sensibility. We come to the tongue, the strong muscle of the tongue, and its sensitive surface that picks up flavonoids, turns them into tastes, flavors. You can have almost no idea how that happens, but happens it does. We didn't make the tongue consciously, step by step, putting it together. It's there. And to whatever degree it works, creating the world of taste, none of which belong to us. And this tongue and this sensitivity to taste is not me. It's not mine. It's not myself. Coming to the nose, and the nose isn't just the pointy bit in the front of the face, it's also this fist size realm of the olfactory bulbs and sensory experience inside the face. Somehow it's picking up the sense of the world, turning them into one of our most delicate sensibilities, the aromatic sense. Amazing. No idea how to create such a thing, and yet here it is. Put the nose, the physical nose, deep into the face. It's not me. The sensibility to smell is not mine. This is not myself. Coming to the eyes, the soft, wet eyes. Somehow turn light into color and shape and form and create one of our strongest senses through the flexing of its muscles and lenses, creating the visual world. And there's also that inner visual world where we see images inside the mind's eye. We have almost no idea how that works, how that happens. And then in an instant, we have a sense of the physical through light, refraction, reflection, interpretation. These eyes and their sensibilities, not me. It's not mine. It's not myself. Not so personal. So like not to take ownership. Coming to the ears. And of course the ears are like the nose, not just that bit on the side of the head sticking out that we might hang jewelry on or itch and scratch, but there's a whole tunnel of ear inside the head, into the inner ear, the delicate hairs that vibrate to all vibration and create that world of sound, that way that we can perceive to great distance, to incredible silence. This sound world, this sound dimension. It's again not something that we do consciously. And if we had to, could we do it? Could we turn that high frequency into a bird song? It's not me. It's not mine. Not myself doing this. And with that wide sense, we can bring the attention to the intellect, to the emotional quality, to the thinking capacity, to thought and emotion objects, our sense objects that occur to us. We might feel that we consciously think, but much of the time thought happens. Just like all the other sensory input, they occur to us. With a wide sense and a sense of the mystery. We might even have a sense of where it happens in the physical body. Is that where it happens? I have no idea. Thoughts occur, and they're not me. They're not mine. They're not myself. And let's just rest a moment. Sixth sense doors wide open. Tactile, skin, tongue, nose, eye, ear, and the intellect. This is the all of the all. All that we know comes through the sense doors. None of it's me. None of it's mine. None is myself. breath, not me, not mine. These sounds, not me, not mine. And the final moments of this meditation, just appreciating yourself, your practice, your dedication, appreciating each other here, supporting each other to be here. Wishing that our practice may be for the benefit of all beings, near and far, especially those who need it the most. So thank you for your practice, and we'll transition into the last bit of time for community here. If you're enjoying the practice, feel free to continue. You can continue with your eyes open, eyes closed, body still, body moving, whatever feels helpful. So, touched on some interesting ideas there, kind of in terms of the liberating views that we can take. It's often said that the not self strategy is one of the most powerful ones to take on, can also be one of the most unfamiliar. And, perhaps as we go through from anicca, inconstancy, dynamics, non lasting, to dukkha, can't bring lasting satisfaction, actually doesn't contain satisfaction, it's unsatisfactory, to not me, not mine, not self strategy. Perhaps the level of acquired taste, or how counter evolutionary they kind of feel, or counterintuitive they feel, kind of increases as we move through. So not going to be for everyone, but I wanted to drop it in, and I dropped it in a relatively kind of mild dose, we could say. And I think it's actually just quite delightful to go through the sense doors and realize I'm not doing that actually. Why would I take ownership of that, especially when we get to the thoughts? How easily, how quickly, like quicksilver, they become me and mine, and something wrong with me or right with me about uh, you know experiencing things this way. So whatever experience we're having in our life, we can take it with us and make it a helpful lens. Yeah, so we choose where to place our attention. um, these liberating views can be brought in, into conversations, into communications. We can set them as intentions for the engagement of our life, and we can continue exploring them on the cushion and also off the cushion, so to speak. Yeah. um, when you find you're in a situation with a lot of difficulty, a lot of stress, a lot of suffering, perhaps it could be helpful to recognize there's a view here. What is the view here? Yeah. So we also want to use these views skillfully in our life, and apply them accurately. Yeah, like a view can empower us, it can also disempower us. We might have an experience that we notice that my mindfulness isn't very reliable. Yeah. And we could say, this is unreliable. This doesn't bring me lasting happiness. My mindfulness comes and goes. That probably wouldn't be a very skillful approach. It'd be more skillful to actually say, why is it coming and going so much? Yes, we kind of did at the beginning of the practice. Like, is there a lack of interest? Am I actually too tight? And we kind of like soothe it, open it that way, because mindfulness is going to be a really key component for our gaining of freedom. Yeah. So it's about that appropriate use, and we'll see it for ourselves. It's like, is this a quality that brings well-being? actually, is that's actually going to help me get more free. So not truth claims, usefulness claims, to do with liberating of love, liberating of beauty, liberating of appreciation, compassion, care, kindness, all of those kinds of things. Yeah. So when we started off this week, we started off talking about what are our intentions? What do we really wish to see more of? What is it we want to cultivate? Keep that in heart and mind, because no one said anything there that I felt didn't relate to a sense of freedom, a sense of well-being for all beings. Yeah. So as I said before, if you have a question, comment, reflection, things, do feel free to put them into the chat and I'll respond to those. I just want to mention a couple of things. So there's a few events that I think could be really interesting for those of us here. But of course, also, I want to mention that this is the last day of us being here together. And there is always the possibility of offering support to Sangha Live. And a portion of that support that is received before the end of Friday will be shared with the teacher of that week. So in this case, if you make your contributions before the end of today, the 5th of April, then some of that will come to me. A proportion of that will come to me, and that will support me in doing the teachings and other work that I do. I'll mention a little bit more about the other work that I do shortly. Meditation in action is a really key part of what I'm interested in as well. And I will mention a bit about that. So, Sangha Live has offered this freely, and we are free to respond, including not responding, not contributing financially to this. So many other ways that we can contribute. We can, as I was saying, take this practice from the cushion into the world. Such a good use of dana, of participation. Your presence here already showing up. We can show up on behalf of ourselves. We can show up on behalf of others. Another really beautiful way of practicing dana is participation. It's a good translation for dana, participation. It's an invitation to participate. Even if we contribute financially, we're not paying back. We're paying forward. We're paying forward the opportunity for others to come in to experience this. In life, in general, I don't think we can ever pay back kindness, payback, those kind of things, unless it came in a monetary thing. They gave me 5, I gave them 5. It doesn't really make sense to pay back kindness. Well, how are you going to do that? But we can see it that way, but it's much more healthy, helpful, and steps us out of the debt mentality to pay it forward. There's a question about how is monthly dana donation shared with the teachers. I think someone asked that before, and from what I remember is they do get a proportion of that. So the dana is processed at the end of the month. I remember it, and that's included within the thing. So dana that came Monday to Friday as singular donations is attributed to that teacher that was there, and the monthly dana is split between all those who were there that month. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. And thank you, for reminding us that. So it is possible just to kind of set that up in the background going on as a monthly dana donation that you can make for all of this. So I hope it's clear. You're very, very welcome and invited to support Sangha Live and those who come here to teach. And you're very welcome to just be here as you are. So I'm going to put a couple of links into the chat of things that I think are quite interesting. And they're going to come in 2 parts. Let's see if I can just put them there. I apologize. You're probably getting a little bit of my notes along with that. So the first one is actually related to meditation in action. That's why it's MIA, sanghaseva.org. Really, I think, currently quite a beautiful website, quite a beautiful movement that I'm a part of, probably you could say like a key part of. We have a retreat coming up in Calais for those who are in Europe, called Humanity in Action, relating to the refugee crisis that we have over there. Yeah. And it's a way that we can bring our meditation practice. We're going to do kind of a long weekend, the last weekend of May to June, where we'll offer our service in support of the NGOs and positive organizations that are out there. Also want to let you know that last night, Zara gave a beautiful talk, my partner Zohar, also co-founder of Sangha Seva, around peace work that she's doing. I know some actually from Sangha Live were there, able to make that. It's going to be recorded and go up on YouTube. If you want to know about that, or you want to know about the work that Zara and I will be doing from next week onwards, and previously have been already doing as peace work in Israel and Palestine, also connected to Sangha Seva's way of teaching and practicing, you can contact us through the Dependent Origination website or through Sangha Seva website. They all come through to us. Second thing I wanted to let you know is that one of the aspects of this week I left out, which was actually dealing with the impermanence of loss and grief and all of that. And it fits within a teaching called the 5 Daily Recollections. Yeah, and I'm going to be opening out to that on Saturday's online Dharma Hall, be at 5 p.m. UK time. So if you're interested in that, it's tomorrow. Otherwise, it'll end up on Dharma Seed if you want to catch up with that. Hopefully, you know about Dharma Seed. Otherwise, just what's it called? Drop the lead of the thing. So yeah, that's amazing resource. But that could be really nice to tune in with, and we'll have more time for interaction there. And the other thing that you might be interested in is there's a peace vigil through Gaia House this Sunday, 7 till 8. And I'll be offering that in the hope and wish for peace in the world. It's not listed on the Gaia House website, but if you write to them, you can find their contact details on the gaiahouse.co.uk website. Yeah, so if that's something you'd like to do, you can feel free to step in there. I'm just going to run over a little bit because Clive's asked a good question. I just want to wrap that up. So Clive's saying, I think I heard you say there has to be a view for there to be an experience. For there to be a perception, there has to be a conception. That's exactly right, Clive. Yeah. Then the thought arose, how does that work for a baby? I guess that as we develop as a small being, we don't have conceptions, but we do have experiences, although we don't at any early stage anyway have the sense of having experiences. Would you like to comment on this? So I think babies have concepts, basically. I think they do have concepts. I think concepts are kind of pre-intellectual. We have ideas about things. Yeah. So they are having an experience based upon the concept that doesn't have a concept of table. Perhaps they're looking at this blurry object, but they're seeing colors. Colors don't come without concepts. Yeah. It's part of, they're embedded in the thing, and those concepts become grosser and larger. What we're really interested in through these teachings and practices is what concepts are leading to dukkha and what concepts are leading away from that. And as we go through that experience, we keep refining the concepts that we were useful for getting rid of that level of dukkha. Now new concepts kind of work in ways which actually open out in different ways. Yeah. So that's how I see it. Someone who's done more about, child development can have a different view, but that within the framing of the teachings, that's what we're saying. Yeah. So I hope that's helpful. All right. Thank you all so much for being here. Really wish you deeply well, and maybe see you through some of those other events or in other places along the way, until I'm back here with Sangha Live again and with you as a lovely community. So yeah, blessings to you all. Take care.